In my journey as an artist, I have discovered 4 key lessons from ancient Egyptian art that I believe every modern artist needs to know. Therefore, in this video, I will share my insights and experiences with these themes and how they have helped me to grow as an artist. Chapter 1: Patterns and Colors in Ancient Egyptian Art. One of the things that I find most striking about ancient Egyptian art is the use of patterns and colors. They differ significantly from all other art movements that existed in history and modernity. While modern artists have access to a wide range of hues and shades, the ancient Egyptians were limited to only a few colors, including red, ochre, black, and blues. By working within these constraints, they still were able to create stunning artworks that still captivate audiences today. The colors in ancient Egyptian art are a key element of the art's appeal. Besides red, ochre, and black, they also implemented dark and light blues, violet, white, and gold in addition to the base ochre colors. Most of these pigments were derived from local minerals, for example iron oxides for reds and yellows, or azurite and malachite for blue and green. The colors were combined in intricate designs in a surprisingly modern way to depict important spells and biographies of the deceased in tombs and temples. Like here on this sarcophagus, for example, the design has a surprisingly modern look. The colors were not chosen randomly, but each had a specific symbolism for the Egyptians, and they were used to convey that meaning. For instance, male figures were typically depicted with reddish-brown skin to symbolize their outer lifestyles, while women were portrayed with lighter skin, using yellow and white mixes to represent their indoor lifestyles. Each color used in ancient Egyptian art had to accurately represent the themes of the scene being depicted, whether it was a man and his wife at dinner or the gods in a solar barge. Gods, for example, were usually depicted with gold skin to reflect the belief that they had in fact golden skin, with the exception of Osiris, who was often depicted with green or black skin to symbolize fertility, regeneration, and the underworld. Ancient Egyptian patterns are also particularly noteworthy, as they combine geometric and organic shapes in an unprecedented way. The ancient Egyptians simplified objects from the natural world, such as birds, lotus flowers, or reeds, into circles, triangles, and squares, and incorporated these shapes into elaborate patterns that are truly mesmerizing to look at. The patterns as well often had symbolic meaning and were used to convey messages about the gods and the afterlife, making them an integral part of ancient Egyptian art and culture. Now, incorporating patterns and symbolism from ancient Egyptian art can be a fantastic way to add depth and meaning to your art. Consider using images of tomb murals, hieroglyphs, or other ancient motifs in your work. Or try to incorporate elements of ancient Egyptian fashion, such as the typical hairstyles or jewelry. The distinctive Egyptian eyeliner is another feature that can add an interesting and unique touch to your art. Try experimenting with the limited color palette and explore how it can affect the mood and impact of your art. Don't be afraid to get creative and see how the ancient Egyptian imagery can influence and inspire your own artistic style. I myself have created lots of ancient Egyptian pieces, and it is so much fun and inspiring, and working with these ancient colors and patterns helped me to understand more about design and composition. So don't be afraid to get creative and see how the ancient Egyptian imagery can influence and inspire your own artistic style. For example, by joining me on Patreon and follow along as we create our own Egyptian-inspired paintings, starting with the cat goddess Bastard. The painting you see me creating in this video is actually available as an extended step-by-step painting tutorial on Patreon, with over 200 video tutorials covering a range of topics from material guides to portrait and full painting tutorials for both beginners and intermediate artists. You will have all the tools you need to improve your skills and create stunning art. Many of my students have already used my tutorials to create beautiful artworks and improve their skills. And now it's your turn. Follow the link in the video description to join and start creating your own ancient Egyptian-inspired art today. In addition to the patterns and colors, the hieroglyphs are also works of art in themselves and give the ancient Egyptian paintings an almost extraterrestrial character, in my opinion. They are an integral part of ancient Egyptian art and were used to convey messages about the gods, the afterlife, and other important aspects of the culture. In my own art, I have used them as background elements or to show the name of the deity I depicted. To ensure that I get the writings of the hieroglyphs right, I look up specific deities on Wikipedia, such as busted from my tutorial. From there, I carefully copy the hieroglyph symbol for their name to the best of my ability. There is something truly special about immersing oneself in ancient Egyptian culture through the creation of art or study of its history. It is an experience that can be almost transcendent, evoking deep emotions and a sense of connection to the past. By using the vibrant colors, intricate patterns, and symbolic motifs, you can bridge the gap between the past and the present in your own artwork. This can be an exciting way to connect with history and bring a unique, timeless quality to your art. Consider experimenting with the limited color palette of red, ochre, black, and blue, and incorporating traditional Egyptian patterns into your composition. You can also incorporate symbols and motifs that hold deep meaning in the culture, such as the Eye of the Horus or the Ankh, to add layers of depth and significance to your work. The mystery of this ancient world is truly captivating to me, and exploring it through the medium of art can be an enriching and fulfilling experience. Chapter 2. Creating dissonance and surprise in your art. In my art, I often strive to create a sense of dissonance and surprise by combining elements that may not seem to fit together at first glance. This can be achieved by taking traditional or old-fashioned motifs like ancient Egyptian art and combining them with modern techniques or elements, or use a variety of materials or textures in a single piece. For example, I might depict an Egyptian goddess in a way that is unconventional or unexpected, using strong colors and abstract effects that are unusual for ancient art, and using my mixed media painting technique. The purpose of creating dissonance in art is to stimulate the viewer's sense and create a sense of tension or intrigue that draws them in and keeps them engaged. I believe that by combining seemingly incompatible elements, we can create innovative and original artworks that are not bound by traditional styles or conventions. Here are some examples of my own art that demonstrate this. Nefertari is one of my favorite paintings. It combines modern abstract elements and a modern style of illustration with the ancient motif of an Egyptian goddess. I painted the jewelry with a lot of patience to give it a naturalistic character, similar to the level of detail found in the temple paintings of the ancient Egyptians. But the color palette, the motif, and the detailed depiction of the jewelry all provide a connection to the past, while the modern painting techniques, the abstractions, and the butterflies as a contemporary element form a connection to the present. This is how the dissonance and the element of surprise are created in this picture. Another of my paintings that explored the concept of dissonance is Isis, the Egyptian goddess on the moon. In this piece, it's particularly easy to see the dissonance, as it depicts an Egyptian goddess on the moon, which is of course totally unrealistic and more in the realm of science fiction. In addition, there is a second moon in the background, adding to the surreal and unexpected nature of this painting. The color palette used in this piece is very modern, with the exception of the gold, which is typical of ancient Egyptian art. However, the many modern elements in this piece may not be balanced enough to create a true sense of dissonance. Nevertheless, it's still an example of my recombination technique. Amunet and Nebtetep are two simpler studies that still show the influence of ancient Egyptian art. These paintings did not require as much time investment, but the Egyptian inspiration is still clear. One of my favorite works is Neckbed, where I have combined a very elaborate headdress with modern makeup, a somewhat old-fashioned hairstyle, and abstract painting techniques again. The profile view of the face, commonly used in ancient Egyptian art, adds to the piece's connection to the past. Overall, these examples demonstrate my technique of combining old and new elements to create dissonance and surprise in my art. Chapter 3. The importance of patience and dedication in ancient Egyptian art. One of the things that I have always admired about ancient Egyptian art is the level of dedication and attention to detail that went into each and every piece. When I think about the thousands of tiny hieroglyphs that were painted onto sarcophagi or the intricate patterns that adorned the walls of temples, I'm in awe of the sheer amount of time and effort that must have gone into creating these works of art. As a modern artist, I have learned that one of the key lessons we can take away from ancient Egyptian art is the importance of patience and dedication in our own work. When it comes to painting details or working on a particularly intricate piece, it can be tempting to rush through the process or cut corners in order to get it done more quickly. However, I have found that taking the time to be patient and truly dedicate myself to the task at hand often results in a much more polished and satisfying final product. This dedication and attention to detail was especially important in ancient Egyptian art because of the deep symbolic meaning behind each and every element. The colors, patterns, and hieroglyphs all conveyed specific messages about the gods, the afterlife, and other important aspects of ancient Egyptian culture and religion. As a result, the artists had to be incredibly precise and careful in their work, ensuring that every detail was just right in order to accurately convey the complex and nuanced meanings. Of course, it can be difficult to maintain this level of dedication and patience in our own artistic endeavors, especially when we are working on tight deadlines or facing other distractions. However, I believe that it is worth the effort to try to cultivate these qualities in ourselves as artists. Whether we are working on a small sketch or large complex piece, it's essential to be committed to creating the best possible work that we can. This requires discipline, focus, and a willingness to put in the time and effort needed to achieve our goals. By approaching our work with a sense of dedication and a willingness to take the time to get things right, we can create truly beautiful and meaningful pieces of art that will resonate with our viewers. Chapter 4 – Inspiration from the Pantheon. Now, the final thing that we can learn from ancient Egyptian art is to be inspired by their vast pantheon of deities. Their many gods and goddesses provide a rich source for painting subjects and symbolic meaning for our artworks. To help spark your creativity, here are a few Egyptian deities that I find particularly inspiring. Bastet. As the goddess of joy, music, and dance, Bastet can be a great source of inspiration for artworks that focus on celebration and the creative arts. You could depict Bastet as a cat or a woman with a cat's head, or simply include cats in your paintings as a way to pay tribute to this playful deity. You could also draw inspiration from Bastet's role as a protector of cats and incorporate themes of protection and caring into your art. I myself have painted Bastet, as you could see in this video, and it is a lot of fun. I will probably paint her again at some point. Anubis. As the god of funerary rites and the afterlife, Anubis can be a great source of inspiration for artworks that focus on death and the mysteries of the afterlife. You could depict Anubis as a man with the head of a jackal, or even do a gender swap if you'd prefer to draw women. Osiris. As the god of the underworld, Osiris can be a great source of inspiration for artworks that focus on death and resurrection. You could depict Osiris as a mummified king with green skin, or include themes of death and rebirth in your paintings. Isis. She was the goddess of birth, rebirth, and magic. She was also recognized as the ruler of the underworld and associated with rituals for the dead. Despite the spread of Christianity, Isis was still worshipped by Greeks and Romans living in Egypt. Since early Hellenism, her worship in the form of the Isis and Osiris cult is also attested outside of Egypt. Isis is a great image motif, as she has a long history through several cultures, which you can refer to in your artwork. As she is also depicted with wings, you can also take that as a great inspiration for your paintings. Even the famous artist Gustav Klimt has already painted her. The crocodile god Sobek can be a great source of inspiration for paintings that focus on the power and mystery of the Nile River. You could depict Sobek as a crocodile-headed man, or also just include crocodiles in your paintings. Sekhmet. The warrior goddess is often depicted as a lioness in ancient Egyptian art. Sekhmet was a fierce and powerful goddess who was associated with war, hunting, and the sun. She was often depicted with the head of a lioness and was often shown carrying a bow and arrow or a spear. She was also a goddess of healing, which you can include as a theme in your artwork as well. Now, if you don't want to paint a deity, you could instead draw inspiration from the rich history of the pharaohs and dynasties of ancient Egypt. The female pharaohs in particular provide a wealth of material for you to explore and incorporate into your work. For example, you could depict each female pharaoh in a painting, like Hatshepsut, Nefertiti, Cleopatra, Chosret, or Sobek-Neferu. Each of these powerful women had their own unique stories and accomplishments, and not only is it a fascinating research topic, it will also inform your paintings and provide you with new ideas for your artworks. One way to get started is by researching the reigns and accomplishments of these female pharaohs. What were their major building projects or accomplishments? What did they look like and how were they depicted in art? What symbols or motifs were associated with them? By answering these questions, you can start to get a sense of the personality and character of each pharaoh and use this to inform your art. Or if you're not interested in depicting a pharaoh, you could also instead draw inspiration from the characteristic motifs depicted in ancient Egyptian art, such as the Nile and its flora and fauna. The Nile River was an important source of life in ancient Egypt, and many elements of it and its surroundings were often depicted in art. These include the river itself, as well as plants and animals that were commonly found in the Nile Valley, such as papyrus plants and lotus flowers. Crocodiles were also often depicted in Egyptian art, as they were both revered and feared, mythical creatures. Ancient Egyptian art often featured mythical creatures, such as sphinxes and griffins. Sphinxes were typically depicted with the body of a lion and the head of a human, and were associated with royalty and the sun god Ra. These mythical creatures were depicted in art as protectors or guardians, and they make striking painting motifs. Or you could paint animals. Cats, dogs, lions and ibises were all commonly found in ancient Egypt, and as such were frequently depicted in their art. Cats were highly revered in ancient Egyptian culture and were often depicted as sacred animals. In conclusion, ancient Egyptian art has so much to offer for the modern artist. From the attention to detail and dedication to craft, to the use of patterns and colors and the rich pantheon of deities or mythical creatures, there is always something new to learn and to be inspired by. As an artist, I am constantly seeking to improve and grow, and ancient Egyptian art has played a crucial role in my journey. Whether you are a beginner or a professional artist, I hope this video inspired you to draw inspiration from ancient Egyptian culture to create artworks that are meaningful, beautiful, and evocative. Give the video a thumbs up, and I hope I see you in the next one. Happy painting! Bye bye!